beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make sense. Hi everyone. I am very excited about today's guest. Although Daniel and I serve on some committees together, I do not know him well at all. I know that he has a work ethic which is commendable and is extremely good at organizing things, and then making it look as if he has just arrived at a picnic as a guest. I immediately liked him when we met, and have learned to have a healthy respect for his spirituality. My sense is that he walks the walk instead of talking the talk. So let's not waste any more time and get chatting. Daniel, good morning. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
I'm very, very happy to have you here. I didn't think this was going to happen, to be completely honest with you. When I think of you as this hectically busy person. So when you said you could actually make it, and that during the week, you just go, whoa, what's going on here? Did he lose his job?
Not yet, but I am hectically busy, but I guess when people ask you to be of service, I really try and make an effort to be of service because, as you know, it's part of our program and what we do and helps us stay clean and stay connected and it's something I'm quite passionate about and interested in. And so when you asked me to come and talk about my spiritual journey, I said yes.
Well, I'm grateful. Spiritual principle of gratitude practiced this morning. As I said, when I think of you as somebody who is really busy. And I basically just know you in a weird word, busyness context, because we're always on some form of platform together, organizing something or something like that. So I see you in a work context, in a busy context, and you always seem so relaxed. So is this a facade? Is it a mask that you wear, or are you just one of those people who have the ability to let things go and what's going to happen is going to happen? That type of thing, because I'm a freaker outer. I'm a drama queen, bottom line.
Look, I mean, we're all busy. Everyone, the modern day person is always busy. So I guess I'm not really anything special, but I do like to get involved, and we sit on various committees together and we put on events together. And I guess, that always makes us, more vulnerable to the stresses of additional stresses of taking on too much stuff. And I guess, maybe that was something in my, previous way of living that drove a lot of my anxiety, because I would suppress all of that, and then, I would need an outlet to then release that, or I felt entitled to be able to release it because look at all the stress and stuff that I'd taken on.
Or we created more chaos to create the opportunity for us to blame the stress.
Yeah, but I have led a life that was always impacted by having a lot of duties and responsibilities from a young age. So it's something that I've kind of coped with. And I think my previous way of living was filled with a lot of dire consequences and bad habits. But one of the good ones was the ability to really be able to do a lot of stuff at the same time and handle those pressures. And it was something that was kind of enforced upon me from a young age. Just kind of managed to do it. When I was at varsity, all my varsity friends would be knackered after a day of varsity and be chilling out on the beach, and I'd be working in my family business in the evenings and weekends, and so my study times were very, very short. I had to be able to take stuff in quickly, process it, and then and still put in the same amount of drinking time, obviously.
So important.
Exactly. So you learn to kind of handle and juggle a lot of things, and I guess it's one of the good things of growing up in that way.
Are you a people pleaser?
I definitely was a lot. That was a big part of my persona and behavior growing up in a household headed by an addict. And so that environment, as you know, is all about walking on eggshells and trying to keep the peace and preventing the next outburst, and also just sort of the insecurities that develop around that then mean that you're always in this constant mode of people pleasing. You don't realize it at the time, but people pleasing / manipulation.
Always.
So I was, but I'm conscious of that now. I'm conscious of doing it for the wrong reasons. If I'm going to be of service, then be of service without the expectation of anything else coming back from it. But then also the counter to that is putting boundaries in place and making sure that you're not being taken advantage of, or that you're not doing something for the wrong reason or wrong motive. So it's something I'm working on. I mean, I still do it a little bit and catch myself and slap myself, but work in progress, right?
Yeah. I struggle with that concept of not expecting anything back. Even if it's just expecting serenity back. I expect something back. Yeah. I just have that, I'm doing this for a reason. There's nothing like I'm just doing this to put it out there. It's just no.
Yeah. Especially when you think about it too much, right? Yeah. When you think about it too much, you just do it. Just do a nice thing. Just do something nice. And don't think about it. Don't tell anyone about it. And, and it's hard. It's hard to do that because, we've lived a life of trying to get our own outcomes from our behaviors and our actions. So we're repairing that way of living. Yeah. So it's difficult.
It's like I believe in tipping a car guard. It's just something that I do because I feel they do something, so they deserve to be remunerated for it. And I tip them well, and every time that I tip them well, the thought that goes through my head is, it's karma. It will come back to me. Instead of just, it's freaky. Yeah. So there's definitely the next layer that needs to be peeled is for me. So, what is your concept of spirituality? What's your understanding of, I don't know, the spirituality, belief, religion? Where do you fit in this whole universe of belief systems that we can have?
So it's evolved. It's evolved over time, and since I've been in recovery as well, I've started calling myself a spiritual atheist.
Okay.
And then it's kind of developed from that into something that's leaning towards what's called pantheism now, in that this God or source or this connection exists in all of us, which is something that I'm sort of formulating in my mind as where I'm going to with this. But I guess to define spirituality for me would be this, I read this great definition of it somewhere or heard it on a podcast. It kind of stuck with me as something that really resonated, which was an awareness that we're connected to something much bigger than ourselves. And that's kind of like fits in with how I'm formulating and developing my concept of spirituality, in that we're all connected to each other, to nature, to the universe. And for me, that's kind of how I view spirituality, in that it's something, that connection, it's always there.
So it's connectedness, basically.
Connectedness,
to everything.
Yeah, and then being aware of that. Because, even in the kind of lives that we both previously lived, we were still, the spirituality was still there. It still existed. It was just caked over with all this cuck that our lives and the way we were living just baked over all of that. So it was always there. Yeah. And then it's just about leading a life and having the practices to then stimulate it and experience it, and to experience that connection.
Yeah.
So it is all about the connection, and that's how I sort of try and imagine it, and the way I see it, and the way it is sort of developing for me.
Yeah. I did an amazing guided meditation once. I was on a trauma counseling course, and the facilitator had all of us sitting in a circle, and they had an orange in front of us. So we sat in the classic meditation position, and eyes closed, take the orange, smell it, feel the texture, become aware of all the sensations around this orange. And then with your eyes closed, bite into it and peel the orange. And my first thought was, the mess. I hate dirty hands. So just sauce everywhere, but the smell, everything was amazing. Yeah. So then bite the orange and be aware of the taste and the texture and butter. Now go into reverse and picture where the orange comes from. And so you see the orange on a tree, and you see the tree going into the earth. And how's this earth connected? And to suddenly realize that somebody eating an orange in Singapore, it's effectively grown from the same earth. It's all connected. And it was such a kind of, whoa. So we are all connected. Everything is connected.
I've also seen some studies have been done now about, walking through a forest and looking at the tree root systems and how they actually, in a way, communicate with each other. Like the original network of nature.
Amazing.
And that again, just comes back to just this connectedness that exists through all beings and even inanimate objects. There's this connection there. So yeah, it's interesting when you sort of become aware of it and you're open to it and you're experiencing it. And yeah, to come full circle from a militant atheist perspective on life and then sort of being pushed into a place where, spiritual experiences sort of guided me onto this path and into this place now where, you're open to those kind of things.
Yeah. You didn't grow up atheist, did you?
I grew up in a fairly orthodox household where, orthodoxy is practice, which means, you're religious twice a year. And the rest of the time, you're really acting very unreligiously. But it's okay as long as you're religious twice a year, And no, so didn't grow up with that. And then obviously through my experiences, my interactions with my father, and it's funny, a lot of the workbooks that I've done go through and they compare your sort of lack of religion and spirituality with your relationship to your primary caregiver. And in the case, my father. And so those words that we used to describe, the sort of image of God were very much the same words that I used to describe my father.
Oh, wow.
And so that, my childhood and my upbringing and all that affected my sort of move towards atheism, which was this feeling of abandonment.
Okay.
And there can't be someone out there because I've been emotionally rejected through that process. So it came over time that atheism became a great sort of destination for my feelings and interpretations and belief systems that there is no one out there looking after you, no one cares, you've got to do everything by yourself, bad things happen to good people, so all that kind of stuff. And so atheism was a natural sort of destination for me.
And then that changed. It sounds as if the change was connected with a lot of intellectualism. You went in search of...
With the change to spirituality.
Yeah.
I definitely needed an intellectual base to my spirituality and my understanding of spirituality. I needed that. But the move or the change or the circumstances that kind of pushed me into a more sort of spiritual approach to living was nothing intellectual at all. It was an experience. It was, I guess, role players in the universe in my life basically pushing me into a different way of living. And I remember the feeling that it was a moment and that changed my life. And I believe that moment was a spiritual experience, and that was kind of like the universe saying to me, okay, we've been waiting for you, and we've been calling out quite a few times. It's now time for you. Like, you're obviously too dumb to hear the call, so we're stepping in here, and you need to now like embrace this. And it was, and I felt this thing through my body. It was just an experience that I'll never forget, and I knew that in that moment my life was going to change, and that sort of like opened me up to a new way of thinking, living, more open-minded to what I had to do to repair my life. And that was it. But I know that moment, I look back and I knew that was the actual turning point for me, and then a lot of hard work afterwards.
Yeah. You mentioned dad not positive. Where's mom in this?
Mom is the long-suffering codependent to the addict.
Sorry for sounding so classic, eh?
Yeah, and I guess in a way, did the best that she could under the circumstances. A very hard life, shipped out to marry someone in another country at a very young age. Was pregnant 6 times by the time she was 24. Had 4 kids by the time she was 24. So. I'm, did the best you could, but obviously given the environment that we all did the best we could just to survive the challenges of our home life.
Oh, that took me a while to realize that my parents did the best they could. I was very, very, very critical towards them. I felt I was let loose into life, not equipped for what life demanded of me, and I blamed them for it. And it took me a lot of therapy to get to the point kind of they did their best. And it's really quite nice to reach that phase of to accept that they did their best.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's the resentment is what fueled my addiction and my push towards addiction, especially around my upbringing and my parents, my father especially. But you realize that just like I didn't stand a chance, they didn't stand a chance either. And their circumstances were even worse than mine, and mine were pretty rough. So, but you got to get to a stage where you got to let go of that. Otherwise, you'll never be able to, unburden yourself and move on and live the kind of life that you do.
Yeah.
I don't have as we speak here, I have a non-existent relationship with my father. But I try not to carry the resentment with me of his actions in the past, because I know it's just going to screw me up again. So you just have to, once you realize what it does to you, let it go.
Yeah. I always say I don't need somebody else to screw me up. I can do that well enough myself. I don't need
I don't need amateurs. Yeah.
Let the professional do the work. Okay.
Yeah.
We are a product of our upbringing. I just really see that I am a product of my past experiences. The choice that I have to make today is whether I'm going to allow that to drag me down and define me. I choose to not allow it to influence me today. Now, you have children.
Yes, yeah, I have two amazing beings they're a handful, but they're an amazing handful. And, since I've turned my life around, my relationship with them has been just nothing short of amazing, and an opportunity for me to break the cycle that was probably going on for generations in my family line. And my relationship has certainly changed with them, and a marked increase from what it was. I struggled to connect with the concept of parenthood while I was in active addiction. You should be doing something, but you're not. Heart's not really in it because your mind is elsewhere. Yeah. Your mind has been hijacked, right, by your addiction and by your way of living. So, yeah, it was really, and I could see it straight away. It was within weeks, our relationship, the mood, the way they interacted. They would run run to the door.
I'm smiling. I've got a big smile on my face.
Yeah, I mean, they just now they run to the door when I come home, and it's just shower them with the kind of love that parents should.
Yeah, fabulous.
And, it's just amazing, and opportunity to break the cycle is obviously a huge incentive.
So it sounds as if you're acutely aware of the type of behaviors that contributed to your struggles, and that you don't want to repeat those behaviors in your relationship with your children.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big driver of my recovery. Yes, I'm doing it for myself, but part of myself and my life is my relationship with my kids and my wife as well. So, and it is actually a spiritual experience. It's part of practicing spirituality is connecting with another human being, and connecting with someone that you helped make is a beautiful thing. And I can see also, especially with my son. My son is a 3D printed version of me, just with blonde hair. I can see how sensitive he is, and it takes me back to how I kind of know, I intuitively know that I used to be this very sensitive little boy.
Yeah.
And I can see how my affection towards him is exactly what he needs to kind of deal with the world.
Oh, wonderful.
And we have this amazing relationship, and I just look back at how if I was the sensitive little boy, and I was, and I wasn't getting that affection from my father, how that could push you down the road of where I went to, and of sort of retreating into myself and isolating, and ultimately feeling rejected, and all the issues that come with that.
Yeah.
So I can see how parenting is so crucial to how you end up in our childhoods. What happens to us in our childhoods determines the kind of person that you will be later on in life, and I can see it for myself, and I can see it just playing out in and it's obviously a massive thing that drives my willingness and appreciation of parenthood. If you grow up in a household where all these bad ways or these poor behaviors and ways of conduct are what you experience, and then you normalize it because you have to normalize it in order to justify it and survive it.
Absolutely.
And so if that's your first-hand experiences are the most powerful. It's like, talking about spirituality to someone who has never, or who is an atheist, has never felt any sort of, it's difficult to kind of convince them that this feeling of connection exists, Whereas now I've felt it, so I will say, look, well, that's how I believe it because I felt it, you know. And the converse to that is if you see bad things happening, you're way more inclined to normalize it because you've got front row seats to a shit show. And if you grow up around that, then the smell of poo, you become desensitized to it later on in life. So absolutely, that's why it's so important the way we conduct ourselves around kids, what we expose them to, and what we show them to be good practice and good examples. The role models are so important.
Absolutely.
And it all seems like, when we were growing up through it, I'm like, fuck, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But when you go through the ringer and you come out the other side and you hear the experiences of people in the kind of groups that we're part of, it's the same story just told with a different angle and a different set of bad experiences. But the model is the same. Everyone had a shit childhood. Everyone, and that's it.
That's it. Even those who thought they had a good childhood, well, once they start investigating it, I didn't realize.
No, I knew mine was shit. I just didn't know how shit.
See, I didn't know mine was. I thought mine was okay and normal, until I looked back and saw how I felt. One thing that I so remember about my childhood was I was constantly afraid. I never felt safe. And that anxiety I just brought right through my life.
And that's a product of, most likely, your relationship with
my father.
your parents, right? And that whole thing about parenting is that you need to make children feel safe so that they know that they can go out into the world and always have a safe place to come back to. But if your primary caregivers and existence and home life is unsafe, well then, how are you ever going to feel comfortable to go out into the world and not be anxious and not be fearful and, not feel rejected and alone?
Absolutely. So at the age of 50, I'm now in a position where I need to make the choice that I cannot live my life in fear anymore. And it's amazing how it served me up until now. And now I realize I can't continue like this. I just can't. It's not going to serve me in any way. So to undo 50 years of crap. But like as you said, there's a saying that we use in NA a lot, which is shit stinks, but it's warm. The comfort of the warmth is so important to us that we don't even smell the crap anymore.
Yeah, and we've been desensitized to the smell of the crap.
Absolutely,
right? And so we only know the warmth.
Yeah.
And that's why we do the stupid things that we do. The insane things, right? We talk about the insanity. That's why we do it.
Absolutely. So what do you do on a daily basis or on a regular basis?
So what's changed, if we're talking about sort of spiritually speaking practices, so meditation has become a big part of my life.
How do you meditate?
So I've got an app that helps me with guided meditation.
I still wanted to. Yes, I still want to get that app from you. Yeah.
So it was. I kind of like when I started this, and I saw that meditation was going to become a big part of the recovery process. I was like, well, I don't need to wait till step 11 to kind of get into it, and started experimenting and looking at stuff online. There's a lot of free resources online and YouTube, and then eventually found a couple of apps and found one that worked for me, and it's great. It's kind of every day has a new guided meditation. There are a whole lot of different ones. I've used the 7 days of anxiety and 7 days of stress, and
cool.
That program, those have worked really well. And even there's bedtime stories for kids. So,
wow.
But spoken in a meditative way, which is great. And there's times when on holiday I've had 14 hours of kids. I'm like, just stick on them, the bedtime story. So that plays a big role for me, especially to calm the mind. I mean, we suffer from obsessive thinking. And that's also been a big part of our downfall. Obsessive thinking, which leads to anxiety, which leads to playing the movie over and over again and harboring old resentments. And this helps me to sort of just kind of start my day in a way that is just puts the wolves at bay. And quiet time is this massively underrated thing in this modern day way that we live. And so just kind of start the day before the kids get up and before the madness of the day starts, and just have that time. So that's been massively powerful for me. Prayer is something that has come a bit later on to me, and how I've started praying. I mean, the serenity prayer is something we say a lot, and there's times outside of the rooms when we've done that. And then just I try and listen to sort of podcasts on the way into work, or music, so meditative music, and which are all
not fall asleep in the process.
and just to kind of like help with that calming of the mind. And then I get to work and I'm kind of like, my concept of my higher power out there, and I'll say, pray, just help me be the person that I really want to be today, because I know I'm going to walk in through those doors and I'm going to want to harm either myself, mostly others. Just help me be the kind of person that, lives, that can, live that spiritual life in the workplace as well, where there are a lot of challenges of open-mindedness, honesty, and being of service. And just kind of help just remind me that get out, get in my friend, and then go. And then by lunchtime it's all gone, and I'm
you need to do it all over again.
And you're thinking of like sharpening pencils, and, so I do that. And then this year's been a particularly tough year for me, personally, relationships and work, sort of relations with my family, and it's been really tough. It's taken a lot out of me, and I look back and I don't actually know how I survived through all of this. And I've taken the step of booking myself in for a Zen retreat.
Wow!
In 3 days of just a new experience of
Is it the quiet one?
No, it's not. It's the chanting one.
So the quiet one freaks me the fuck out. The idea of not saying a word for how many days?
Yeah, the quiet one I've booked for March.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Which
that's how many days?
10 days.
Oh my god!
10 days. Yeah.
Can you comprehend doing that?
I can't. If it was tomorrow, if I could go tomorrow, I would be there tomorrow. So it's just kind of. I mean, I was I'd heard other people talk about it, and I was like, that's quite interesting. And then my wife was like, that sounds like a cult. No way, you're not going. And I'm like, no, look, this year I really need to get away from people, devices, and everything else. So. So it's just putting yourself out there to those kind of things, and then the other thing, just to practice spirituality, is just to kind of practice being connected. I mean, or to create an environment where connection can happen. And so my concept of being connected, being spiritual, which then helps me stay clean, is something which needs to be replenished all the time, and that's by either doing these practices or putting yourself in environments where you can feel that connection. Meetings is a spiritual experience for me, and connecting with people, and open, honest, vulnerable conversations are ways of connecting. And so that you got to keep continuously. I have to keep continuously topping that up, and that is meditation, prayer, experiences, nature, people, family life, dogs, walking, these other things. And it's just it doesn't last. You just have to keep doing it over and over again, and then it becomes a way of life. It has to become a way of life if you want that connection to then replace those urges and the needs to act out and find the pseudo connection that drugs, sex, alcohol would give us.
Then rock and roll.
Yeah.
Listen, is your wife with you on this journey?
She is. She's not as spiritually practiced, or as
aware.
Yeah, she doesn't need to do them, to keep her sanity. So she is very lucky, and I'm very lucky that she's a product of a relatively stable and warm and loving upbringing.
I'm raising my hand here. I also got that luck.
and so, you know, the stresses of like her life, they build up, and then she has a little blowout, and then she's fine, you know, or like she has a glass of wine and that's okay. And I'm like, oh my God, that is like, you're quite lucky. But also, so it's not as imperative to her sanity to do all these things. She's never needed that to keep her on the right path. But I guess also on the other hand is maybe I feel, you know, the upside of those spiritual connections, which are quite intense and very joyful, and that I guess maybe she doesn't have, you know, the upside, but she certainly doesn't have the downside of that. Yeah. So, you know, and she knows that when we are not connected, she picks it up like this.
Okay.
And then, you know, obviously because of, you know, my history, that brings up stuff for her, and we're still working out how to deal with it head on. But she certainly feels it, and so whether she knows it or not, everyone is spiritual. Everyone has that connection. Yeah, it's really a lot of the times what I'm going through that affects our ability to connect.
Okay. So with everything you mentioned, dogs as well.
Yes, I have two. At one stage, we had 2 dogs, 2 cats, 2 kids. And there was something else that we had in
parrot.
Yeah, something like that.
Daughters.
Yeah. So and it's quite funny. I have a 10-year-old sort of half breed, like I think it's called an Afrikaner breed type dog, like a bit of Alsatian pavement special. And then I inherited a sausage dog from my sister, and that sausage dog is and I are we've been through a lot together. Like, you know, I mean, when you're in active addiction, you think no one's going to love you if they really know who you are, right? And so you never let people get close, and that intimacy just doesn't exist. But, you know, with him, I always kind of felt he knew who I was, and so we had this amazing connection. And we still do. Yeah, and then he's been through the wars, the poor guy, and anyway, so. Yeah, but he's still around, and he's an example of like, you know, the connection with nature and other beings.
Awesome.
Which was very, you know, so I kind of look through, it's like my one friend who's been through all of it. He kind of knows everything. So it's amazing. Yeah.
I love animals, and I love that connection that that unconditional aspect of relationship with a pet is so awesome. When I was a teenager, we had a golden retriever cross type of dog, but she was the most wonderful animal. Actually, my cat is now exactly the same as that dog was. Anyway, so when I went through all my teenage years, all my drama, I would hold her while I cry, and she would get up and her chest would be soaking wet, and she would just lie there. She was completely okay. It was always so sweet. Last question, and I ask this to everybody, and I love the reaction when it comes. Are you happy?
Now is the happiest I've ever known my life to be.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm content with. I feel very fortunate to have not fucked my life up so badly that the good things that I have are still around.
Yeah.
You know, I used to need very intense experiences to feel any sort of joy.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I can look out on a hike and see the view and like feel this feeling inside me that goes, that's amazing, and kind of bring you to tears. I love nothing more than walking my dog and my son after work, going is my happy place.
Oh, fabulous.
You know, and mountains in the background, open fields, and that for me is just incredible. So to be able to experience that is, which I wasn't ever able to before. I wasn't able to. I didn't get nature. I'm like, what is this? There's no like strobe light. There's no smoke machine. There's no like. How is this fun? You know.
Exactly.
So I am happy, and even though like you'll never have a perfect life, or the concept of perfect life doesn't exist. You know, it's this moment, right? This moment is all that we have, and once you kind of realize that and buy into that and start living your life like that, then, you know, joy. I remember reading that there's a difference between joy and happiness. Right? So happiness is driven by external factors, but joy comes from within and is longer lasting and more sort of, more sort of real, right? So I can buy something from Take a Lot tomorrow and it'll make me happy, but 5 minutes later,
Exactly.
I need to buy something else.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas if you are living a spiritual and connected life, then, that joy can just come from, just listening to a piece of music, or, stroking a dog, or playing with a cat, or with kids, or listening to a river stream running, and so I'm now experiencing all those things for the first time ever, which is just amazing. And so I am the happiest I've ever been. There's a long way to go, and still sort of work in progress of things in my life that still need. But it's I've still got a lot of time left. But happy to the concept of spirituality and the living, or the attempt to living a spiritual life, has totally changed my perception and the way I interact with this life and other people around, and that is the source of this joy, which was never possible before.
Okay, I lied. I've got 2 more questions.
Okay.
I didn't mean to lie. They just came out well. One I remembered I want to ask earlier. How do you apply spirituality at work?
Yeah, so it's a tough one, because there's so many moving parts to work, and it's not just yourself, right? It's not just about, and there's
and to deal with all these assholes.
and control, right? So control is our other big sort of character defect.
Absolutely.
And so but a lot of the work that we do in the program to figure out why we're trying to, I know control is a character defect, but look, okay, why am I trying to control? Well, I'm trying to control so that I can get the outcome that I want.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why do you want the outcome that you want? Well, because if I don't get the outcome that I want, then I'm going to look like a fool.
People are going to think that you're stupid or can't.
Exactly, which comes back to my insecurity. And where does my insecurity get? So once I start figuring all this shit out, I'm going, well, I know why I need to control, so I can now actually do something else than try and control. I can either let go, I can offer help, I can do all these other things.
Manipulate somebody else to control. That's what I normally do.
Delegate someone else to control the situation. And it's hard, because also, we're supposed to accept the things we cannot change, and the courage to change the things we can. But a lot of the stuff that, in my business in particular, that we are supposed to do is about change. So I'm kind of going, well, okay, we're supposed to change all this shit, so I can change a lot, so I should be so it's different, but I guess it's really just about thinking all the time, just there's principles of spirituality. There's open-mindedness, there's honesty, there's service, and you can apply those.
You applied them in
every situation at work. It's harder because the stresses mount, and you kind of get sucked out of that spiritual mindset. And that's why I need to have sort of like fire breaks, right? So when the red mist comes down, I was like, okay, right, I just got to step out, do a quick emergency meditation, okay? Or I just go for a walk, and I just realize, okay, hang on a second, what is the right thing to do? Honesty is a big one that you can and have to. The opportunities to be dishonest in business are, there isn't a day that goes by where there isn't an opportunity to be dishonest.
And it's less if dishonesty is the norm. So you kind of nearly the opposite.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so our needle of what is normal in this country especially has been so far moved to it's not in the center anymore, and so I guess just by being honest and by resisting that temptation and by doing that, you are practicing spiritual elements. And also, as a leader in my business, I have to think about how can I start applying these principles in the workplace and creating an environment for people to de-stress or talk open and honestly about stuff without and also because the environment that we work in is very stressful. Mental health issues are a massive problem, so like part of me thinks, how do I bring some of the spiritual program into the workplace that allows them, without sort of forcing like spirituality, but just a process of open communication.
It's kind of nearly what Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. Yeah. Last question, I promise.
Okay.
Where do you stand with play?
With play?
Play, yeah.
Oh, right.
But not the energy drink.
Yes, okay. So, it's massively important. And I think even when I was in active addiction, I used to get a sense of calmness and serenity from playing something like cricket.
Okay.
For a long period of time, when actually focusing on the game would give me sort of respite from the
noise in your head.
Madness, yeah. So we've got some friends on our group from the rooms who play tennis every now and then. So we play. So playing sport in sort of combining exercise with play is great. I've got a young son who's cricket mad and rugby mad. So
cool.
I participate in rugby coaching at his school.
Oh, awesome.
We're throwing balls in the net in the back garden. Also, I like board games, and when we get the chance to do that, so it's that creative, that outlet is massively important, I think, to maintaining that balance. And we're kids at heart. We want to play, and I think it's a critical component of leading a happy life.
Yeah. The reason I'll ask that is that's definitely another part of the layer, or another layer that I need to peel, is I really struggle. I take myself so damn seriously.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to hear that people have this ability to just kind of, so just let it go.
Yeah.
And I'm finding I'm getting better at it, especially with children. I could never connect with children. These days I don't feel like a fool anymore. And that's always, oh my God, I feel so stupid.
And you'll see, like, especially in highly creative workplaces, where tech companies and ad agencies especially have the pool tables and the foosball tables, and they're like chill out rooms and all that kind of stuff which encourages play and stimulates creativity. So play is a great relaxation technique. But coming back to not taking yourself seriously, I can't remember which book I was reading now, but this guy was talking about the concept of he was some leadership or some kind of book like that. He was speaking to someone, and someone burst into him and said, we've got this massive problem. This is, and like this person's not doing that. And, the person who's speaking in the first person in the book says, what's rule number 6? Remember rule number 6? And the person who just burst into the room goes, okay, fine. And turns out and goes out. And then someone else comes in, same thing, and they're panicking, and he goes, what's rule number 6? Remember rule number 6? And they're like, okay, no problem. And so the person sitting there visiting the person who's sitting behind the desk says, what the hell is rule number 6? And what's rule number 5? So 1 to 5. So there's no rule number 1 to 5. But rule number 6 is don't take yourself so goddamn seriously.
Oh, fabulous. So I must definitely remember rule number 6.
Yeah, rule number 6. So it's like rule number 6. And sometimes I have my, when I get really like this with someone, or someone didn't do something, I'm like, rule number 6, but you just rule number 6.
I remember my ex always used to say when I throw my toys, because always said, but look on the bright side. There is no bright side.
It's all dark and it's
my
death
counselor,
and destruction.
But look at the gift. There is no gift. I just don't want to see that. Yeah. Listen, thank you so much. This was awesome. I'm so grateful. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm also very grateful.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Ciao. I am so happy to have been able to have this conversation. I know Daniel is extremely busy and am beyond grateful that he has managed to make this time for this chat. It is clear that Daniel has embraced the principles of recovery as his spiritual path and is allowing this path to take him where it seems fit for him to go. I always find it fascinating to hear how people manage to balance the demands of life with their spiritual journeys and how they practice spirituality at work. I surely got a few pointers, and I hope you received some pearls of wisdom too. If you have any feedback or remarks, please feel free to pop me an email or connect on social media. It will be great to hear from you. If you want to know more about what I do, please feel free to connect with me on my website, which is www.freddie.org.za, or find me on Facebook at www.facebook.com rensburg.freddie.org.za or on Twitter at @RensburgFreddie. Remember that Freddie is always spelled with an IE at the end. Be safe. Bye.